Hello, people. Back at it again. Another episode of The World is Burning. My apologies for my absence, people. I've been sick as a dog the past few weeks, and I didn't think anyone wanted to listen to me coughing and dying on stream. So, back at it again. Let's keep on going. If you're new here, we're just covering these economic issues everyone's going through, and we're going to be covering some of these collapses. The collapses are coming, people. Today we're looking at default rates. Everyone's leverage full tilt. Before we do that, shout out to the 750 subscribers. Love you all, people. Absolutely love you all. Look at this, people. US and European default rates to rise in 2024 despite primary market recovery. We all know the primary market recovery is all nonsense anyway. It's a Ponzi scheme waiting to fall down. But the US and European default rates are going to rise. Look at this. UK banks accept sharp rises in defaults on unsecured debt. Unsecured debt's never a good option, people. But look at this. Lenders forecast biggest quarterly increase in missed repayments on credit cards and loans since 2009. What happened in 2008, 2009, people? The big financial crash. And look at this. Credit cards and loans, personal loans. Everyone's living on credit right now, people. Everyone's living on credit. This is really the time where you've got to get your finances in order and not be living on credit. This is literally going to be a financial house of cards that is going to collapse. And look at this. Corporations aren't safe either. Corporate debts defaults soared 80% in 2023 and could be high again this year. I think the safe money would be saying it is going to be high again this year. The number of companies that failed to make required payments on their debt totaled 153 for 2023, up from 85 the year before, an increase of 80% according to the S&P Global Ratings. It's not a good trend. That is not a good trend. In 2024, we expect further credit deterioration globally, predominantly at the lower end of the rating scale. So it's just bad debtors. People have no money. Everyone's leverage full tilt. Look at this. Default transition and recovery. US speculative grade corporate default rate to hit 4.75. It's going to be bleak, people. It's going to be bleak. I don't see any good news coming out. People will literally sit there with a straight face and tell you the economy is doing good. Look at this one. The young people aren't safe either. Credit card and auto loan delinquencies continue to rise, notably among young borrowers. So not even the young people. The corporations are getting hit. The countries are getting hit. The young people are getting hit. Seems like the only people not getting hit are the boomers right now. But shout out to all my boomers who subscribe. The report shows total household debt increased by 212 billion. These are just silly numbers. We're currently at 17.5 trillion, people. Absolutely ridiculous. Let's get into it. Let's see what these videos are saying about the current state of defaults. Let's get into it. Jesus Christ.
What if the U.S. defaults on its debt? What happens if the U.S. defaults on its debt?
A worldwide economic meltdown would happen.
Okay, good to
Yeah,
know.
that's because our debt, defaulting on debt. What does default on debt mean? It means that the debt payments, interest, and any return of capital is not paid back to some or all of the people that hold the debt. Who holds the debt? Well, a bunch of our debt is held by U.S. citizens. They would be unhappy. But we also have debt owned by foreign sovereign companies.
And this is what people don't realize. If you've got a 401k, if you've got pensions, if your money's invested in stuff, you're probably investing in all this debt as well.
Countries, also by companies, by individuals around the world, and the borrower is servant to the lender. They have to repay. So that's what would happen. It would be a global meltdown like we have never seen before. I don't believe we will ever get there, but when you see what has been implemented in other nations with the so-called austerity measures, maybe some people can do some research. What happened in Greece, what happened in Poland, what happened in Italy. They can get a small glimmer of, it would be 100 times worse, 1,000 times worse if the U.S. did it, because it's the world's largest economy.
Yeah, leave me a comment, guys, if you actually know, if you think you know what's going to happen when this meltdown does happen. I think people are just going to start defaulting and stuff. The bank's going to start repossessing things, and then, the money's going to trickle upwards like it always does. But leave me a comment. I love hearing from you, the community.
Okay, now that March is over, let's talk about the progress we made on this debt payoff journey. If you're new here, our goal is to pay off our debt in 2024. And if you can't pay it off, you can at least pay it down by the end of the year. I'm going to go over a few of my wins from March, but let me know how you did. Did you pay off some credit cards? Did your credit score go up? Let me know because I love to hear it. Now, about 9 months ago, I had $112,000 in debt. And today I have $60,334. And I know that seems like a lot, but I'm still going to try to pay it off by the end of the year. I was also on a podcast last week talking about all of these things. So if you want to know where that's at, let me know and I will tell you. My next win was 11 of my 13 credit cards I am no longer paying interest on.
Let that sink in, guys. 11 out of 13 credit cards. This woman has 13 credit cards. I mean, leave me a comment. How many credit cards do you have? Are you holding balance on all these credit cards? Look at this one, Belinda Denmark. I've paid off 6 credit cards so far this year. It's like, how many credit cards do these people have?
I only have a few credit cards to pay off before I'm on to my personal loans and can start really working on those. Debt payoff 2024 is our goal. If you can't do it in 2024, maybe you can do it in 2025, but you can at least get your balances paid down before the end of the year this year. It's only just the start of April. You have plenty of time. If I would have waited till the new year to start this debt payoff journey, I would not be down to $60,000. I would still be very close to that $112,000 that I started with.
Shout out this woman though, that's a real good improvement on that debt. And if you've got debt, guys, you've got to be writing it out like this. You've got to be on top of it. You don't want to be drowning in credit card debt, especially 13 credit cards.
Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen warned that if the debt limit is not increased, the United States will not be able to pay its debt as of June 5th, 2024, and will go into default. A U.S. default could cause interest rates to rise, stock markets to decline, and the dollar to lose value. This could lead to a global financial crisis. Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen.
Yeah, guys, I don't know how this is going to play out. It seems like every year they just increase the debt limit and then they argue a little bit. They push stuff back and then they spend more money, increase the debt limit. I think, is that how it's going to be forever? Is there an end to that? Leave me a comment, guys. I really have no idea at this point.
Defaults when it comes to getting a mortgage. How many is too many, and does the amount matter? Adverse credit lenders will all have their own set of rules and criteria when it comes to assessing defaults. Now, I'm going to talk about this in 2 stages. High loan to value mortgages, which is 90 and 95% loan to value, and then 85% and below. So at the high loan to value, your 90 and 95%, typically the most important factor is when the default was registered. Now, these lenders who will lend at this loan to value, and there's probably only 2 or 3, will want the defaults generally to be over 3 years old. They won't be too concerned with how many there are, and they won't be concerned with the amounts or indeed whether they are satisfied or settled. As long as they're over 3 years old, you have options available. Not many, but there are some. Now, below 90%, so at 85% loan to value, there are a lot more lenders willing to lend if you have defaults. And there is a vast array of differences in their criteria. But typically, it is the date, again, that it was registered that is the single overriding most important factor. Some will put a cap on the amount they're allowed and also limits on the amounts. But yeah, it's that date of registration that is important. Now, these can be more recent than the high loan to value where it was 3 years. It is possible if you've got 1 or 2 that are in the last 12 months even, particularly if the amounts are small. But my advice when it comes to defaults, especially if you've got a lot, is use a broker. They'll be able to take the time, go through it and find what lender is best for you.
Shout out to my Yorkshire brother here. Love hearing the Yorkshire accent. Look at this comment here, Lisa. Is it okay to have about 3K in credit cards and about 4K left on a loan when you come to apply for a mortgage? Personally, I wouldn't do that, Lisa. I would knock all these loans and credit cards out. I'd get rid of them before you try buy a house. People don't realize home ownership's really expensive. Like when I got my house, within the first 6 months, the boiler went, then my fence blew down when we had terrible winds. And before you know it, you're looking at like, 8-9 grand that you have to pay out. So always just keep that in mind. Keep that in mind. It's expensive owning a house.
If it's the last thing I do, I'm going to teach you how to be good with money in 2024. If you're new here, I'm Becca, and in June of this year, I quit my job as a nurse to become a stay-at-home mom because we paid off our debt and learned how to be good with our money. No one taught you how to be good with money, and that is intentional. School doesn't teach you how to be a millionaire. School teaches you how to be a good employee. It teaches you how to sit down, shut up, obey orders, and show up on time so that one day you can punch a clock for 40 years and hopefully live to retire. Sounds great. But we are leaving the victim mentality in 2023, and instead of saying, this is why I can't do it, you're gonna start saying, I'm gonna find a way to do it. First thing you need to do is go to the top of my page and get my free Get Out of Debt guide, and that's gonna introduce you to the 3 things that you need to do to make 2024 the year that you get your financial shit together, get out of debt, and start taking your life back. I literally manifested my dream life in 2023, and I didn't even know that's what I was doing. Complete 180 of my entire life. Got out of debt, saved money, bought a house, quit my job.
Shout out Becca, she's getting out of debt. I appreciate that. But look at all these comments, guys. These are just, please help, I need to get out of debt. People asking about debt. She wants to pay off 50k. This girl's drowning in debt. She left a DV relationship. Shout out Veronica, hope you're doing well. Feel like mine is impossible. Oh, look at all this, guys. Everyone's in debt right now. Everyone's in debt right now. I'm horrible with money. Sandra. I am old with debt. That's an absolute nightmare, that one. God, it looks like everyone's in debt.
They want to pay this credit card off in 1 year, and this comment was a couple weeks ago, so let's just pretend they're going to have it paid off by December of 2024. The limit is high, it's $27,600, and the balance is $18,245. So we take the balance divided by the limit to get the current utilization. So the current utilization is at 66% on this card. Luckily, it's not maxed out completely because that would be even less fun to pay off. But if we take the 66% and there's 11 months left before December ends, we're going to divide the 66% by 11 to see how much the utilization needs to go down on the card every month to have this goal of paying it off in 11 months. The balance needs to go down 6% every month to be paid off in 11 months. So here are the utilization percentages going down by 6%, and then here are what the balances need to be at in order to report at each one of those utilization percentages. Remember, to get these cards to report at these utilization percentages, you also have to account for interest. I'll go over that in just a second. If we take the balance times 6%, this is going to tell us how much the balance needs to go down every month, but this doesn't account for the interest. So you're going to have to add extra for the interest. You can do.
Don't forget about that interest, people. Credit card interest will ruin you.
Either by guesstimating the way I do interest, or you can just look at your previous statement, how much you were charged, and just add that to the next month's payment of $1,656. And the interest will get less as the balances get lower. They want to pay this credit card off.
Shout out this girl, all about Ashley getting a follow. She's always good with the money whenever I see her videos. But once again, people, look in these comments. Everyone's just saying, how do I pay my balance down? How do I pay my... They've obviously not even listened to a single thing she said because she laid it out really easy to do it. But yeah, look at this. It's just never-ending comments of people who are in financial crises. Terrible.
I saw the president in his interview talk about
not everyone who is seriously in debt but makes good money is ready to accept this. So just swipe up if you're offended. Ready? You're in debt because you spend more than you make. This is basic.
It's very true.
However, it's a math problem that you can't actually solve with a math equation, because simply telling yourself to spend less money is the same thing as telling people to just eat fewer calories to lose weight. Like, if it was that simple, the entire diet industry wouldn't exist and credit card companies wouldn't make so much money off of interest charges. The issue here is not what steps do I take to pay off debt. The issue is, how do I convince myself to actually take the actions that I know I need to take to successfully achieve my goals? We can't solve the...
Yeah, and I think a lot of this is people are in a bit of denial. I know a lot of people are struggling and they're not making enough money, but if you actually, and I did this the other week, I was looking through my spend and I was like, there is a lot of useless stuff I'm just blowing money on right now. So yeah, I definitely do a bit of an audit and look at what you've spent the last month and actually realize, just add it up and realize just how much you're wasting away on stuff.
So how long does a bad credit score last?
Government spending is taxation. The sooner you understand this, the sooner you'll understand why free programs like free healthcare, free education, or free anything by the government is a lot more expensive than if we just paid for it by ourselves. The government doesn't have any money. They don't produce any income. The only income that they have is through taxation. It's the money that they can get from some people and give to other people. If they don't get enough money through taxation to compensate for all of the spending that they do, the only alternative that they have is to borrow money via their bonds, either by the people or by the Federal Reserve. If the people don't invest in enough of their bonds, then the Federal Reserve has to print money to buy those bonds. As the Federal Reserve buys those bonds, they are printing more and more money into existence. So anytime the government spends any kind of money, the people have to make up for that spending. This is not free money. Every single dime that the government spends has to be made up for. And if it can't be made up for through taxation or through bonds, then the Federal Reserve has to print money. When the Federal Reserve prints money, that is inflation, and prices of assets go up, prices of goods go up, and everything becomes more and more expensive for the average American. This is why I'm so bullish on real estate right now. As inflation gets worse, asset prices go up, and the government literally has to print money right now to service its debt. If I were you, I would invest in real estate.
I mean, he's not wrong here, and I think that's a nice one to end this video on, guys. We'll end it with this comment as well. Friends in Canada are paying nearly 40% of earnings to taxes and have the worst healthcare experiences. Many come to the US or other countries to help. Yeah, I always feel for the Canadians out there. Shout out the Canadians. Trudeau, sort it out, brother. Yeah, and I'll catch you on the next one, guys. Leave me a comment, though. I'd love to hear how you guys are finding this right now. I'll catch you on the next one. Bye.